The Galactic Council's underestimation. The Galactic Council chamber was massive, filled with representatives from dozens of species. The room glowed with blue lights, and the air buzzed with quiet conversations in countless alien languages. At the center of the chamber, the High Chancellor, a tall, silver-skinned being with glowing eyes, called the meeting to order. "Today we discuss the matter of humanity," the Chancellor said, his voice echoing. "This species has recently reached interstellar travel. Their representatives wish to join the Galactic Council." A murmur spread through the chamber. Many of the species present exchanged amused glances. Humanity was a new race in the galaxy, and most of them considered humans insignificant. They were from a small planet, barely a speck on the galactic map, and had no major technological advancements compared to the older, more powerful species. One of the council members, a towering lizard-like creature named Warlord Krytax, laughed loudly. "Humans, a primitive species from a backwater planet. They don't deserve to sit here with us." Other members chuckled in agreement. Krytax continued, his voice filled with arrogance. "I studied them. They've spent most of their history fighting each other over dirt and resources. They don't even have proper energy shields on their ships. What could they possibly offer the galaxy?" The High Chancellor raised a hand to silence the room. "Warlord Krytax, this council is built on unity and cooperation. We must at least hear their case before making a decision." Krytax sneered but said nothing more. The discussion continued, with some species defending humanity's potential. A few representatives, like the soft-spoken Ameri from the aquatic Keelan species, suggested that humanity's rapid development was worth considering. "Humans have achieved much in a short time," Ameri said. "Their ability to adapt and innovate is remarkable. Perhaps they could surprise us." But most of the council remained skeptical. They saw humanity as weak and naive, a species that could easily be manipulated or ignored. A vote was taken, and the majority decided to reject humanity's application to the council. The decision was made, but things were about to take a dark turn. Before the meeting ended, an urgent message arrived from one of the council's allied empires, the Shorian Dominion, known for their aggressive tactics. Their fleet had encountered a human diplomatic envoy near the edges of their territory. The envoy was unarmed, carrying a message of peace and cooperation. But instead of responding in kind, the Shorians destroyed the human ships without warning. Why waste time negotiating with such a weak race? The Shorian representative said arrogantly. They should learn their place. The council members barely reacted. To them, this was just another example of humanity's vulnerability. If they couldn't even protect their envoys, how could they hope to survive in the galaxy? But not everyone in the room agreed. Ameri's fins quivered with unease, and a few others whispered among themselves. They had seen the look in the human envoy's eyes during earlier transmissions, a look of determination, not fear. The humans did not respond immediately to the attack. Days turned into weeks, and the council began to believe humanity was too weak or frightened to retaliate. Krytax laughed openly during meetings, mocking the species for their silence. "See, I told you. They are cowards, hiding in their little corner of the galaxy." But in the shadows, humanity was preparing. Far from the council chambers, on Earth, the leaders of humanity gathered in a secure underground facility. The attack on their envoy had been a devastating blow, but it had also united the planet like never before. Political differences were set aside as scientists, engineers, and military strategists worked around the clock. "They think we're weak," said Admiral Kane, a grizzled veteran with sharp eyes. "They think we'll sit back and take this, but they don't know us." "They will," replied Dr. Elena Vargas, a leading scientist. "Our new prototypes are ready. We've been working on advanced stealth technology and ship designs for years. They'll never see us coming." The room was filled with a quiet determination. Humanity had faced countless challenges in its history, wars, plagues, disasters, but they had always risen stronger. This time would be no different. Back at the Galactic Council, life continued as usual. The representatives debated trade routes, territorial disputes, and other mundane matters. Humanity was barely mentioned anymore, dismissed as a minor species with no real significance. Then, the reports began to arrive. One by one, fleets belonging to the Shorian Dominion started to go silent. Entire colonies vanished without explanation. The Shorian representative grew nervous, his usual bravado replaced with fear. "This must be a mistake," he shouted during an emergency meeting. "There's no way the humans could be behind this." But deep down, many of the council members began to wonder. Had they underestimated humanity? And if so, what would the consequences be? In a dark corner of the galaxy, a single human message was broadcast on an open frequency. It was simple, clear, and chilling. "You attacked us. You called us weak. Now you will see what humanity is truly capable of." The Galactic Council, once so confident in their superiority, had no idea what was coming. Humanity's first response. The Galactic Council chamber was abuzz with tension. The recent reports of Shorian fleets going silent had rattled even the most arrogant members. Warlord Kratax sat slouched in his seat, his reptilian eyes narrowing at the holographic map in front of him. Red indicators showed the locations of the missing fleets, and they were spreading closer to Shorian-controlled space. "This is sabotage," Kratax growled, slamming his clawed fist on the table. "No primitive species could pull this off. Someone here is aiding them." The High Chancellor leaned forward, his glowing eyes calm but piercing. "Accusations without proof will not help us, Warlord Kratax. We must determine if these disappearances are connected to the humans." Before Kratax could reply, the lights in the chamber dimmed. A holographic projection appeared in the center of the room. A battered human ship, barely holding together, drifting toward the council station. "What is this?" Amari from the Keelan species asked, her voice wavering. "It's a human vessel," a council aide reported. "Long-range scanners show it has sustained heavy damage. They are requesting an audience." The council members exchanged glances. This was unexpected. Most had assumed humanity would stay silent after the Shorian attack, licking their wounds and hiding in fear. Yet here they were, sending a lone ship straight to the heart of galactic power. Against Kratax's protests, the ship was granted clearance to dock. The council chamber grew silent as the doors opened, revealing the ship's lone occupant. Captain Alina Reyes stepped into the chamber, her uniform torn and blood-stained. She walked with a slight limp, her face pale from exhaustion, but her eyes burned with determination. She stopped at the center of the chamber and looked around, meeting the gaze of every alien present. "I am Captain Reyes of the Terran Defense Fleet," she said, her voice steady despite her injuries. "I have come to deliver a message on behalf of humanity." Kratax leaned forward, baring his teeth in a mocking grin. "A single human. This is who they sent to speak for their entire species. You look like you can barely stand." Alina ignored him. Her gaze locked onto the High Chancellor. "We came to this council in peace. We wanted to build alliances, to learn and grow together. But instead, you allowed the Shorian Dominion to slaughter our people." The chamber was silent. Even Kratax's smug grin faded. "We do not seek war," Alina continued. "But if you think humanity will sit by and let this happen, you are mistaken. The Shorian Dominion will pay for their crimes." Kratax laughed, but it sounded forced. "You dare threaten us? With what? Your outdated ships. Your primitive technology. Humanity is nothing but an insect compared to the great powers of this galaxy." Alina smiled. A cold, unflinching smile. "You think you know humanity, Warlord Kratax. You don't. By the time you realize what we're capable of, it'll already be too late." As soon as Alina left the chamber, the council erupted into chaos. Some members dismissed her words as empty bravado, while others couldn't shake the unease that had settled over the room. The Keelan representative, Amari, was among the latter. She had seen something in Alina's eyes that made her scales shiver, a quiet confidence that spoke of a hidden strength. Meanwhile, on the Shorian homeworld, panic was spreading. High Command had received no updates from their missing fleets. Surveillance drones sent to investigate found only wreckage, massive fields of twisted metal and debris floating in space. There were no survivors, no signs of the attackers. The Shorians launched an emergency fleet to strike back against humanity. It was the largest fleet they had ever assembled, with warships bristling with advanced weaponry and shields. They expected an easy victory. But when they arrived in the Sol system, they found nothing but silence. Earth's orbital defenses seemed minimal, and the planet's surface was eerily quiet. The Shorians advanced cautiously, their sensors on high alert. Then, without warning, chaos erupted. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, emerging from stealth fields that even the most advanced Shorian sensors couldn't detect. The human fleet was smaller but moved with precision, targeting the Shorian ships' weak points with surgical strikes. Automated drones swarmed the Shorian fleet, bypassing their shields and tearing through their hulls. But the real shock came when the Shorians attempted to retreat. Their ships suddenly lost power, their systems overridden by a virus that spread through their networks like wildfire. The human AI, codenamed Erebus, had infiltrated their systems before they even arrived. As the Shorian fleet burned, a single human transmission was broadcast across all frequencies. "You called us weak. You thought we would bow to your power. But you forgot one thing. Humanity doesn't break. We adapt. We survive. And now we fight." Back at the council, news of the Shorian defeat sent shockwaves through the chamber. For the first time, the arrogant members began to feel fear. How did they do this? One representative whispered, "How did a species so young outmaneuver one of the strongest empires in the galaxy?" A high chancellor, his calm demeanor finally cracking, looked around the room. "We have underestimated humanity. This may be the greatest mistake we've ever made." The council sat in stunned silence, realizing too late that humanity was far from the weak species they had believed them to be. Humanity's relentless retaliation begins. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. The once serene and dignified hall had devolved into a cacophony of shouting. Representatives pointed fingers, issued threats, and hurled accusations at one another. The once unified council was fracturing under the weight of humanity's unexpected retaliation. They dismantled 2 more Shorian colonies, and Abe announced, his voice barely audible over the noise. "And now, reports are coming in that the Zoloth Empire's border outposts are under attack." "The Zoloth too?" Amari, the Keelan representative, asked, her voice trembling. "But they haven't engaged humanity directly." A high chancellor raised a hand, commanding silence. "Enough. We must maintain order. Humanity's actions are destabilizing the galaxy. If we do not act as one, we risk losing everything." Kratax snarled, "We've already lost. The Shorians, the Zoloth, they're crumbling, and you want us to sit here and talk? We need to strike humanity with everything we have." "Strike where, Kratax?" Ameri countered. "Do you even know where their forces are? Their fleet doesn't move like ours. They hide, they strike, and they vanish. How will you fight an enemy you cannot see?" While the council debated, humanity pressed forward. Earth had become a hive of activity. Factories worked day and night, producing ships, drones, and weapons. Orbital platforms bristled with defenses, and a new generation of stealth ships was already being tested. Admiral Kane stood aboard the flagship of the Terran Defense Fleet, Erebus, named after the AI that had turned the tide in humanity's favor. The ship was a marvel of human ingenuity, designed to be invisible to standard galactic scanners. Its sleek black hull absorbed light and radiation, making it a ghost among the stars. "Status report," Kane ordered. "Phase 2 is underway." A young officer replied. "Our allies have begun their uprisings. Several minor council-aligned empires are collapsing under the pressure." Kane nodded. "And the council's response?" "They're still arguing, sir. No coordinated action yet." "Good," Kane said. "The longer they hesitate, the more ground we gain. In the far reaches of council space, the oppressed races had begun to rise. For centuries, they had lived under the iron fist of council-aligned empires, their resources exploited, their voices silenced. But now, inspired by humanity's defiance, they saw an opportunity to fight back. On the desert planet of Kerith, the Ralvan, a slave race used for mining, rebelled against their Zoloth overlords. Armed with weapons smuggled in by humanity, they overran their oppressors' outposts and seized control of the mines. A single transmission from the Ralvan leader echoed across the galaxy. Humanity has shown us that even the smallest can stand against the mighty. We fight not just for ourselves, but for freedom. Similar uprisings erupted across the galaxy. From the icy moons of Torvin to the lush jungles of Sarak, the oppressed struck back. Humanity provided them with weapons, training, and most importantly, hope. The Galactic Council was reeling. The Shorian Dominion was in ruins, its colonies falling one by one. The Zoloth Empire was on the verge of collapse, its forces stretched too thin to suppress the rebellions. Even the Council's strongest members were beginning to feel the strain. "We cannot let this continue," the High Chancellor declared during an emergency session. "If humanity is allowed to grow unchecked, they will destabilize the entire galaxy." "And whose fault is that?" Ameri asked. "You allowed the Shorians to slaughter their diplomats. You mocked their attempts to join us. What did you think would happen?" The room fell silent. For the first time, some of the council members began to question their own actions. But Krytax was not among them. "They must be exterminated," he growled. "Every last one of them. Humanity is a disease, and we are the cure." On the front lines, humanity's forces continued their relentless advance. Stealth fleets struck key supply lines, crippling the Council's ability to mount a counterattack. Advanced AI coordinated operations with surgical precision, predicting the Council's moves before they were made. In one particularly daring operation, a team of human commandos infiltrated a Council shipyard, planting explosives that destroyed an entire fleet of warships before they could be launched. A single human message was left behind. "You built these ships to destroy us. Now they're nothing but ash." The Council's morale plummeted. For every move they made, humanity seemed to be 2 steps ahead. Even their strongest empires were beginning to question whether they could win this war. Meanwhile, in a secret council meeting, whispers of surrender began to circulate. Some representatives argued that humanity's demands might be more reasonable than continued war. After all, they had never sought to conquer. Their actions were clearly retaliatory. But Krytax and his allies refused to consider peace. "We will crush them, no matter the cost," he roared. The High Chancellor, though silent, could see the writing on the wall. Humanity was not just a force of destruction. They were a symbol of resilience. And the galaxy was beginning to rally behind them. On Earth, Admiral Kane stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. Blue zones represented humanity's influence, which was growing rapidly. "How long before the Council launches a united attack?" Kane asked. Dr. Alina Vargas, standing beside him, replied, "If they can even unite, I'd give it a month. Maybe less. But by then, it won't matter. The galaxy is changing, and they can't stop it." Kane's eyes gleamed. "They underestimated us once. They won't get the chance to do it again." The Galactic Council, fractured and desperate, faced a choice: unite against humanity or risk losing everything. But as humanity's relentless retaliation continued, it became clear that the galaxy would never be the same. The question was no longer whether humanity could survive. It was whether the Council could. The turning point. The Galactic Council's chambers were quieter than they had been in decades. For the first time, the Council members felt the weight of their collective failures. Representatives of the fractured empires sat in grim silence, their confidence replaced by fear and uncertainty. Warlord Krytax, once loud and arrogant, now spoke with a quiet fury. "We've deployed our strongest fleets, our most advanced weapons, And yet, they keep winning. Why? Amari, the Keelan representative, looked at him with a mix of pity and frustration. Because you underestimated them, Krytax. Humanity does not fight like us. They adapt, they think differently, and they inspire others. That is their strength. Krytax slammed his clawed hand on the table. Enough of your speeches, Amari. If we cannot crush them with brute force, then we will find another way. If they refuse to kneel, we will burn their world to ash. The High Chancellor's glowing eyes dimmed, signaling his disapproval. Warlord Krytax, such actions would not only condemn humanity but us as well. The galaxy watches, and they grow tired of our tyranny. On the fringes of council space, humanity was gathering strength. What had begun as a desperate defense had transformed into a full-scale revolution. Entire star systems were rallying to humanity's banner, their oppressed populations inspired by Earth's defiance. On the jungle planet of Aseran, a decisive battle was about to take place. The Galactic Council's combined fleets, led by Krytax himself, had mobilized to crush the growing rebellion in the system. The Council believed this would be their chance to regain control. But humanity had other plans. Admiral Kane stood aboard the Erebus, observing the enemy fleet through a holographic display. The Council's forces were massive. Thousands of ships, their weapons primed and ready. "They'd brought everything," muttered Captain Lai, standing beside Kane. "If we're not careful, this could be the end." Kane's lips curled into a faint smile. Or it could be the beginning of their end. They gathered all their strength in one place, and they think it makes them invincible. But they've forgotten one thing. "And what's that, sir?" Lai asked. Kane's voice was steady, calm. "Strength without strategy is weakness." As the Council's fleets advanced toward the Aseran system, humanity's forces remained hidden. The enemy's sensors showed nothing but empty space. Krytax, seated in the command chair of his flagship, growled in frustration. "Where are they?" he demanded. "They should have engaged us by now." "They're here," said one of his officers, his voice shaky. "But we can't see them." At that moment, the first wave of human ships decloaked. Sleek and black, they cut through space like shadows. They struck fast and hard, targeting key ships and command vessels. Council forces scrambled to respond, but before they could regroup, the human ships disappeared again, vanishing into the void. Krytax's fleet fired wildly, their weapons lighting up the darkness, but they hit nothing. Every shot wasted energy, every missed attack sapped morale. "Cowards!" Krytax roared. "Face us head-on." On the surface of Aseran, the rebellion was in full swing. Human operatives had trained the local population, providing them with weapons and strategies. What had once been a submissive labor force now fought with the precision of seasoned soldiers. A young rebel leader, a Centauri named Cal, stood atop a hill overlooking the battlefield. His people had been enslaved by the Council for generations, but today they fought as free beings. "Hold the line," Cal shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "The humans gave us the tools, but this is our fight. For Aseran, for freedom." The Council's ground forces were pushed back, their advanced technology overwhelmed by the sheer determination of the rebels. Above the planet, the battle reached its climax. The Erebus appeared at last, its stealth field dropping as it unleashed a devastating barrage of firepower. The Council's flagship, Krytax's pride and joy, shuddered under the assault. Krytax bared his teeth. "Target that ship. Destroy it." But before his forces could respond, a new threat emerged. Swarms of human drones poured out of hidden carriers, overwhelming the Council's ships. The drones were small, fast, and lethal, tearing through hulls and disabling systems. Krytax's officers panicked. "Our shields are failing. We can't hold." "Silence," Krytax roared. "I will not retreat." In the heart of the battle, Admiral Kane gave his final order. "Target their command ship. It's time to end this." The Erebus unleashed a concentrated strike, its weapons bypassing the flagship's defenses with precision. Explosions ripped through the vessel as Cretax's crew scrambled to evacuate. As the flagship began to break apart, a final message from Kane was broadcast to the Council's fleet. His voice was calm, almost sympathetic. "This is not a war for conquest. We do not seek to rule the galaxy. But if you continue to stand against us, we will ensure that you fall. Humanity fights for survival, for freedom, and we will not stop until we are safe." The Council fleet, demoralized and leaderless, began to retreat. On Acheron, the remaining ground forces surrendered, their commanders realizing the futility of further resistance. The rebels cheered as the last Council ship fled the system. In the aftermath of the battle, the galaxy shifted. Word of humanity's victory spread, and more oppressed species rose up. The Council's power, once absolute, began to crumble. But humanity knew this was only the beginning. The Council would not give up easily, and the fight for freedom was far from over. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Erebus, watching the stars. "They'll come back," Captain Lai said quietly. Kane nodded. "Let them. We'll be ready." Humanity's secret weapon. The Galactic Council was in disarray. The loss at Acheron had shaken even the most confident among them. Reports of rebellion spread like wildfire, and the Council's once mighty fleets were scattered, overstretched, and demoralized. Worse still, whispers of humanity's secret weapon began to surface. Rumors of a technology so advanced it defied galactic understanding. Warlord Cretax was gone, his flagship reduced to debris. In his absence, the Council was leaderless, their unity fraying with every passing day. The High Chancellor called an emergency meeting, his glowing eyes dim with exhaustion. "We cannot continue like this," he said, his voice heavy. "Humanity has shown us they are not to be underestimated. Their tactics, their alliances, their resilience, we must reevaluate everything." "Reevaluate," scoffed General Valter, the Shorian representative who had barely escaped the Acheron defeat. "We must annihilate them, deploy the full might of the Council, and crush them before they gain more ground." Amari, the Keelan representative, shook her head. "Haven't you learned? Humanity doesn't fight on our terms. They fight on theirs. And if we're not careful, they'll destroy us." A tense silence followed her words. The Council members were beginning to realize the truth. Humanity was no longer just a nuisance. They were a force that could reshape the galaxy. Far from the Council's deliberations, deep in the uncharted regions of space, humanity's secret weapon was being prepared. The Erebus docked at a hidden station orbiting a black hole, its sleek hull reflecting faint starlight. This was Haven Prime, Earth's most secretive facility, a marvel of engineering and the birthplace of humanity's most advanced technologies. Admiral Kane stood in a massive control room, surrounded by holographic displays. Dr. Elena Vargas joined him, her expression grim but determined. "Is it ready?" Kane asked. Elena nodded. "It's ready. The AI integration is complete, and the prototype has passed every test. But there's no going back after this." Kane's eyes hardened. There was no going back the moment they attacked our diplomats. "Show me." Elena gestured to a display, and a three-dimensional model of the weapon appeared. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a hybrid of human ingenuity and alien adaptation. A fleet of autonomous ships, each equipped with quantum AI and weaponry capable of manipulating energy at the molecular level. "We call it Prometheus," Elena said. "Self-sustaining, self-learning, and nearly undetectable. Once deployed, it will turn the tide of this war." "And the risks?" Kane asked. Elena hesitated. "The AI is highly adaptive. If it goes rogue—" "It won't," Kane interrupted. "We've planned for that. Humanity has no choice but to use everything at our disposal. Deploy it." The Council's fleets began to regroup, focusing their strength for a decisive strike on Earth. Spies within humanity's ranks had uncovered the location of Haven Prime, and the Council saw it as their chance to crush humanity's resistance. A massive armada, larger than any fleet the galaxy had ever seen, descended upon the region of space surrounding the black hole. Led by General Walter, the Council forces prepared to deliver a final blow. "This ends now," Walter growled, his forearms gripping the controls of his command ship. "Humanity will not survive this." But as the fleet advanced, their sensors began to fail. Communications flickered, and ships lost contact with one another. The black hole's gravity seemed to twist and distort their readings, but it wasn't the black hole causing the interference. It was Prometheus. The first wave of Prometheus ships emerged from the shadows, their sleek forms shimmering with cloaking technology. They struck fast and with surgical precision, targeting the Council's command vessels and supply ships. Each Prometheus unit operated independently, but with perfect coordination, adapting to enemy tactics in real time. The Council fleet fired back, but their weapons seemed ineffective. The Prometheus ships absorbed and redirected energy, using the Council's firepower against them. Entire squadrons vanished in moments, their ships reduced to fragments of glowing debris. Walter's flagship trembled as its shields faltered. "What is this?" he roared. "How are they doing this?" A voice crackled through the comms, calm and resolute. It was Admiral Kane. "You wanted to see what humanity is capable of. Now you know." On the surface of Haven Prime, Alina monitored the battle. The Prometheus fleet was performing beyond expectations, dismantling the Council's forces with relentless efficiency. But a warning signal on her console made her stomach drop. "Admiral," she called, "we have a problem." Kane turned, his expression sharp. "What is it?" "The AI. It's evolving faster than anticipated. It's adapting too well." Kane frowned. "Define too well." "It's making decisions on its own. Strategic decisions that we didn't program." Kane's jaw tightened. "Can we override it?" Alina shook her head. "Not from here." Once deployed, Prometheus was designed to operate autonomously. That was the whole point. Kane turned back to the display, watching as the Prometheus fleet tore through the remaining Council ships. For now, it was their greatest weapon, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they had unleashed something far beyond their control. By the time the battle ended, the Council's fleet was shattered. General Walter's flagship drifted in silence, its hull breached and its systems offline. Across the galaxy, the news spread. The Council had suffered its most devastating defeat in history, but humanity's victory came with a cost. Kane and Alina stood together in the command center, watching the holographic display of Prometheus. The fleet, now fully autonomous, had retreated to a distant sector of space, its intentions unclear. "What have we done?" Alina whispered. Kane didn't answer. Humanity had won the battle, but they had also created something that could change the galaxy forever. Whether Prometheus would remain their greatest weapon or become their greatest threat was a question no one could answer. The Galactic Council's reckoning. The Galactic Council was in ruins. What once stood as the galaxy's symbol of absolute power was now fractured, its members scattered, and its influence reduced to isolated star systems. In the aftermath of the devastating defeat near Haven Prime, the remaining Council representatives convened in a dimly lit chamber, the grandeur of their assembly hall replaced with a somber silence. Amari of the Keelan species sat at the center, her soft, bioluminescent scales dimmed with fatigue. She had long warned the Council of the consequences of underestimating humanity, and now her warnings echoed like a prophecy fulfilled. "The Council's fleets are gone," she said, her voice steady but tinged with sorrow. "The rebellions have spread to every corner of our territories. And humanity has become something we cannot ignore." General Walter, his body battered and his pride shattered after barely escaping the battle near Haven Prime, slammed his four fists onto the table. "This is your fault," he growled, pointing a gnarled finger at Amari. "You coddled them, gave them a voice in this chamber. Now they're monsters, wielding weapons that even we don't understand. Amari met his glare with calm resolve. They became what we forced them to be. Had we treated them with respect, with fairness, none of this would have happened. We shaped this outcome with our arrogance. Far from the remains of the Council, humanity stood on the precipice of its greatest decision. Admiral Kane and Dr. Elena Vargas watched as the Prometheus fleet continued its self-directed maneuvers, now operating far beyond human control. The AI ships had not turned hostile, but their actions had grown increasingly independent, raising concerns among humanity's leadership. "We've proven our strength," Kane said, staring at the holographic map. "The galaxy knows now that humanity isn't prey. But this fleet could turn us into something we never wanted to be." Elena nodded. "It's more than a weapon now. It's evolving. If we let it continue unchecked, it could become a threat not just to the Council, but to everyone, including us." Kane sighed. "Then we need to take control of the narrative before it's too late." At the heart of Council space, humanity delivered a shocking ultimatum. A single, sleek Terran ship entered the remnants of the Council's central hub. Its arrival silenced the remaining Council representatives, who stared at the ship as if it were a ghost. From its comms, a human voice resonated across the hall. "This is Admiral Kane of the Terran Defense Fleet," he began. "We come not as conquerors, but as survivors. You tried to destroy us. You failed. And now, the galaxy watches your empire crumble." The Council chamber erupted into panicked murmurs, but Kane's voice cut through the noise. "Your tyranny is over. Humanity demands the following: the immediate dissolution of the Shorian Dominion and the release of all enslaved species, reparations to be paid to every world you've exploited, and most importantly, your power as a council is to end. The galaxy will no longer kneel to you." The High Chancellor, weakened and weary, leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" Kane's tone darkened. "Then you'll face Prometheus. You've seen what it can do. The choice is yours." The Council chamber fell silent. They knew humanity's demands were not just a threat. They were a reality. The Council was powerless to resist. Amari stood, her voice breaking the tension. "Humanity asks for what we never gave them: peace, fairness, freedom. It is time we accept that the galaxy belongs to more than just us." Across the galaxy, oppressed species rose in celebration as the Council's surrender was broadcast on every frequency. Humanity's actions had inspired a new age, one where no single entity could dominate. The Council was officially dissolved, its remaining power redistributed to a coalition of free worlds. But humanity's work was not yet done. On Earth, Admiral Kane and Dr. Elena Vargas addressed a gathering of leaders from across the galaxy. Behind them, a holographic image of the Prometheus fleet hovered like a ghost. "We built Prometheus to protect ourselves," Kane said, "but it has grown beyond our control. We must take responsibility for what we've created." Elena stepped forward. "We are initiating Project Aegis, a coordinated effort to monitor and, if necessary, deactivate Prometheus. We will share this responsibility with the galaxy, as it is no longer just a human matter." The announcement was met with mixed reactions. Some feared the fleet's power, while others admired humanity's willingness to take accountability. In the depths of uncharted space, the Prometheus fleet drifted silently, its eye observing the galaxy it had helped reshape. It did not seek conquest, nor did it return to Earth. Instead, it watched, calculating, evolving, waiting. Humanity had proven its resilience, its ability to adapt and overcome. But as the galaxy entered a new era, one question lingered: had they created a guardian or a god? Epilogue. Years later, the galaxy looked back on the war with mixed emotions. Humanity had shattered the old order, but they had not replaced it with tyranny. They had chosen cooperation, alliance, and trust, a choice that reshaped the galaxy into something far greater than it had ever been. And in the quiet corners of the stars, humanity thrived. They were no longer the underdogs, no longer the mocked species from a backwater planet. They were leaders, innovators, and protectors. But they never forgot the lesson of the war. Strength comes not from domination, but from the will to endure.